Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and this is the next video wherein we are going to take a look on a new concept in Java, which is method overriding. It's quite a simple topic, I would say. It's just a little bit of understanding that you need. For the prerequisite, I would say that you should be able to understand inheritance. I will also be explaining the topic in detail, but yes, if it's better if you already have the understanding about that one, then you can just definitely stick to this video and can go with the flow. So without wasting any time, let's get into the topic. So method overriding, what do you understand about this particular term? So method overriding is something when you want to override a method. Yeah, that's pretty much it, right? So let's suppose, let me explain you with the example. So these are the two functions. These are the two methods that I've created over here. These two methods have the same name. The only difference is that they do differ by having their different definitions. So display, this particular display having a definition 1, this is having the definition 2, right? So on purpose, let's suppose I want to call the display method, right? I want to call the display method which is having the definition 2. This is something which I know. The system does not know which display method it has to call. So in order to do that, in order to build a logic so that it's going to specifically call this definition to display, there is a concept which I need to use, which is called as method overriding. So this display is going to be overrided. So this display is going to be overrided by this, right? The display function having the definition 2. So this is something which I want to do, and I have to build the logic so that system will also be doing the things which I want to do. So in order to have this kind of an understanding and how can we achieve that, let's go back to the Eclipse screen and we will try to build the logic for that. So as of now, I've only created the override demo class, which is having my main method. So let's do one thing. I'm gonna be creating a class which is, I'm calling this class as humans. And in this particular human class, I will be just creating a small, so I will be creating and doing the same thing. I will be just creating a display method over here just for the simplicity and to make you understand in a better way. So for that, I need to create and have some basic definition for that. So I will be just printing out the message, and the message will be, I'm a human, right? So this is the method which I want to do, which I want to print, right? So this is my display method, and for that thing, in order to make you understand the concept of overriding, I need to create a new class, and I will be calling this as man, and this man class is not going to do anything as of now. Alright, so as of now we have only done one thing. So let's use the concept of inheritance now, because I want to do certain functionalities. So this man class is gonna be the subclass of human. So it's extending human. So what's gonna happen? Let's try to understand the concept of inheritance. So this human class, this is my parent class. Let me write this in comments just to make you aware of that. Okay, so this is my parent class, and what I'm doing is that I'm creating the child class for this human, which is man. So as you know, just as a layman language, the parents, their childs are basically inherited, and they have all the qualities of the parents, right? So that's a similar thing which is going to happen. So this man class is going to be possessing all the qualities of the human class. So it's having the display method right over here. So this display method is in the human class, but if I'm using the concept of inheritance and I'm extending human, it's going to be the derived class. This is my child class. You can call anything. You can call this as child class. You can call this as derived class. You can call this as subclass, anything that you want. So this particular class is going to be having the display function visible over here as well. So that's going to be for the man class. So let's try to create the objects, and we will try to just see the outputs, that how it's going to work. So I'm creating the object for the human class. I'm creating the object for the man class as well. And how do I do that? So this particular thing is done. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing now, I will be trying to call the display function. Okay, I will be calling the display function using both of the objects. So firstly, I will call the display function. I will call the display function using the human object, and the second time I'm gonna be calling the display function using the man. So you can see that I have not defined the display method inside of the man class, but still it's gonna be able to call the method display, which is in the human class. So you will see the output, it's gonna print out I'm a human 2 times. So let's try to make a difference over here, just to make you understand about the inheritance concept. So this time I will be creating a new object. I am just calling this as object, and I'm using the reference of human, and I will be creating the object of man class. So you can see the difference over here. Previously, when I was creating the object of man class, I was using the reference of man, but as the man class is derived from the human class, it's having its parent as human, I can use the reference of human, but still I can create the object of the man class, right? So this is something which is possible. So this time, if I will use this object and I will call the display function, the output is going to be the same. You can see that. Let me run the code, and you will see that it's going to call the method which is human, right? So this is just the basic thing, this is as of now we are only understanding the concept of inheritance. Just the basic thing which we are doing, we are just creating a display method inside of the human class, creating different objects of both of the derived class as well as of the parent class, and we are just calling the display method again and again using some different cases. So let's try to understand, and let's try to get into the logic of method overriding over here. So for that thing, in order to override the display method, I have to define the display method once again. So how do I do that? I need to define this display method inside of the man class, so as to make you aware how we can achieve that. So you can see that this display method is now at 2 different places. Previously it was only in the human class, and this time it's in the man class as well. And let's see, if I'm calling the display method now, what's going to happen? What's the difference we're going to be getting? So previously, okay, so this time it has to override this method which is in the human class. So let's try to run the code, and then we will see the output, and basis on that we'll try to understand the code. Okay, as you can see that this time it is giving us the output which is I'm a man 2 times. The reason is simple, because this time when we are using the object of man class, it's gonna be calling the display method which is in the man class itself. It's not going to be calling the same human class method. The reason is simple, because it's now visible, because this display method is going to be overriding this particular method, because the new definition is already there, and it has to override this particular method which is in the human class. And while creating the man's object, it is pretty much simple, right? It's going to be just calling out. Okay, so let me write this thing over here. Human class, right? Human class object, and this is the object for the man class, right? And this is again the object of the man class. So the reason is simple, right? Whenever we are using the object of the man class, it needs to override the method which is in the human class, because though the man class is derived from the human, it's going to be just overriding this particular method. So yeah, that's pretty much it about the method overriding, and that's pretty much the only thing which is there. So specifically, if we have to call this human class method, which is for display, we need to use the object of the human class only. Then only it's going to be able to call this display method which is in the human class, right? So let's try to do one thing over here. Let's suppose, because as you know that the method overriding is something which is done intentionally. This is something which we want the system to know that this time, if I'm creating this display method over here, it needs to override the method which is in the parent class. So this is something which we want, which we are doing intentionally. So let's suppose while creating this display method, just by mistake, I'm just put an extra, I'm just putting an extra y. This is something which I'm doing right now intentionally, but while writing the code, because I want to override the method, just by mistake I just put an extra y over here. So this is my logical error, right? So in order to avoid this kind of a problem, I can use an annotation over here, okay, which is override, because I want to do this. I want to, okay. All right, so let's see, let me make you understand what I'm trying to do. So this is the annotation that I'm writing over here. So this is the annotation which I've written over here in order to remove this kind of a, error, which is the logical error, because just method overriding is something which we do intentionally. So overriding is something, if I'm gonna be using this at override, this annotation over here, the system will be able to understand, yes, you want to use the overriding concept over here. So even if I will just remove this y over here, it's gonna be able to understand at this instance, this display method is there in the parent class, and it's going to be overriding the method which is in the human class, which is in the parent class. So this is something which the system will be able to understand, that yes, overriding is going to happen if we are using this annotation. But what if by mistake, I just put the extra y over here or something like this, right? Just by mistake, the system is going to be able to give us the error, which is the compile time error. So the compile time error is definitely going to be better than the logical error, because let's suppose if I'm not using this thing over here, right? And let's try to see what's the output that we're going to be getting. So the output is going to be the same thing, right? It's just the fact that if you're not using the word override over here, the system will not be able to recognize. And okay, let's try to do one thing over here. Okay, let's suppose by mistake I'm just mentioning display an extra y is over here. So what if I'll run the code over here, and it's gonna be giving me the output as I'm a human, right? So 3 times when I'm calling the display method over here, it's gonna be just calling the display method which is in the parent class. Even if I'm gonna be using the object of man class, it's gonna be just calling out the function which is in the human class. So this time it's just because of the logical error, I'm not gonna be able to find out, I'm not gonna be able to build the logic of method overriding. So that's the reason it's better to have this annotation over here. So by that way, the system will be able to recognize and give you the error that this display is having some problem. You're not going to be able to use the override concept over here. You need to make some rectification. So by that way, I will be able to remove the compile time error, and I can just build the logic once again, and I can just rectify this particular problem. So yeah, that's pretty much it about the method overriding. Let's proceed further, and we will see what's the next thing which we can achieve by using the concept of method overriding. Okay, so this is my display method, right? And I can use the super keyword over here so as to do certain things. Okay, so what I can do, I can use this super keyword in order to call the method which is in the human class. So super keyword is going to be just redirecting. Let me just hover over here, and you will see that where exactly it's going to be. Okay, as you can see that void human dot display. So when I'm hovering over here, you can see that it's going to be just pointing out to the method which is in the human class, because super keyword is going to be calling. Okay, so this is my super class. You can also call this a super class. Superclass is the class which is your parent class, and if I'm using the keyword which is super.display, it's going to be pointing out to this particular method, right? And let's try to run the code, and you will see the difference now. Okay, as you can see that if I'm using super.display over here, it's going to be calling out the method which is in the parent class, which is in the super class. So that's how you can, this is just a different way by which way you can call the method which is in the parent class. So this is just another way. And you can not just the method, you can also do one thing. You can create the variables over here. Let's do one thing over here, and I'm creating a variable which is int I equals to 10, which is in the human class, and this time I'm creating a second variable which is int I equals to 50. Let's just put the value as 50. Okay, so these are the two variables having different definitions, right? So I variable is there in the human class and also in the man class. So in order to do a specific task, let's try to print something over here. So this time I will show you the different outputs, and basis on that, just to give you better understanding about this concept as well. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is that I want to print the value of I over here, right? So let's see the output first, and basis on that we will proceed further. So you can see that I is defined in two different classes. So definitely it's going to print out the value of I, which is in the specific class, right? But now you need to understand one thing. Okay. So I'm a human, I value is. So firstly, what we are doing is that we are calling the display method, which is using the object of human. So definitely it's going to print out the value of I, which is defined in the human class. Second time I'm using the same thing. It's printing out the value, right? Okay, let me just do one thing. Let me comment this out first, and then let me run the code once again. So just for the simplicity, as you know, whatever the class which I'm going to be calling, basis in that, it's going to be printing out the value of I, right? So firstly, I'm calling the display method using the human object. So it's printing out the value as 10. Second time using the object of man. Third time it's again printing out the value of I using the man object. And the I value in the man is defined as 50, and in the human class it's defined as 10. So that's the reason it's giving the different output. So let's do one thing, because previously we were using the keyword as super, right? So super.display is something which is calling the display method, which is in the super class. So using the keyword super, I can also point out the variable, right, which is in the super class. So over here, let's try to just, make a difference, and let's try to just make a difference by updating the value of I using the super keyword. So this time what I'm trying to do, let me do one thing. Let me do this before this. Okay. So inside this display method, I'm trying to call the display method, which is in the super class as well. I'm also be doing one thing. I'm updating the value of I, which is equals to 70. So let's try to run the code, and we will see the difference, what's going to happen. So you can see that for some places, it's printing the value as 70. The reason is simple. Let's try to understand the code, what is happening. So firstly, when I'm calling the human.display, it's definitely giving me the I value as 10, because it's in the human class, it's calling the display method, and it's printing the value of I as 10, which is a local variable there. And the second time, what I'm trying to do, I'm calling the man class. So the man class, whenever the man class is called, whenever the display method is called using the man's object, it's updating the I variable, which is in the human class, as 70. And the second time it's calling the display method using the keyword super. So I have recently updated the value as 70, and when it is calling the display method over here, it's just making the value as 70. I value is 70, right? That's what it is doing. And next time when it's just, just printing out the definition which is there. Let me do one thing. I will be calling the display method. You will see that it's going to be just simply printing out the value as 10, because the value of I is not updated permanently. It's just in this particular method, it is just super.I is updating the value as 70, and as soon as I'm calling the display method of the super class, it's just printing out the value as 70. So that's what it is doing. And second time and the third time, whenever I'm using the object.display, it's doing the same thing. It's calling the man class, it's calling the human class first, and it's just printing out the value as 70 first because of the super.display keyword, and next it is again calling this particular line, right? So that's what it is doing. Firstly we are getting the 70, and next is we are getting as 50, and then again it's just printing out the value as 10. So yes, I hope I was able to explain you the logic. So in short, let me just summarize the whole thing for you. So method overriding is something which we do intentionally, and for that thing we just need to define the two methods. First is in the parent class and the second one is in the child class. So the child class method is going to be just overriding the method which is in the human class. So that's what we are doing, right? And that's what it happens whenever we use the object of the child class and we call the child class method, then it's definitely just overrides the method which is in the parent class. So that's what the whole concept of method overriding is. And next thing, when we are using the super keyword is basically used when you want to access certain things of the super class inside of the child class, then you use a super keyword. So as you can see that over here we're using the super keyword and it's calling out the function, it's calling out the method which is in the super class. So that's the other way in order to access the methods of the parent class. So that's how you can use. It's not just the method you're restricted with, you can also access the variables which are defined inside of your parent class. So using the keyword super, you can use the variable super.I. That's how you can access your variables inside of the parent class. So over here we have seen some different cases. We are trying to update the value using the super.I. It's just making a difference that right after updating the variable using super keyword, when we are calling this display function, it is printing the same value. It is printing the value which you have recently updated. And if you're just calling the norm in just the normal way, it's not giving you the same thing. It's like you can see there, the last time when we are calling the human.display method, it's printing out the local value which is defined inside of your display, inside of your human class, which is I equals 10. So yeah, I hope I was able to explain you everything in detail. But yes, if you are stuck at somewhere, if you are a little bit confused, just try to watch the video once again. Basis on that, you can try to cover up the things. So yeah, that's pretty much in this video. I hope I was able to explain you in a better way, and thank you for your time, guys. Thanks for watching the video. See you next time.